I'm the cop.
And I'm the robber.
And this is Cops and Robbers Talk. Hi, I'm Chief Chris DiGiuseppi. I'm here with two of my great friends for our Cops and Robbers. This is our initial show, Cops and Robbers Talk. I am a police chief. I've been in law enforcement for 33 years, and I am here with my friend Mike Wilkerson, who is owner and founder of the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network, and my good friend, who probably needs no introduction, Larry Lawton. Larry, tell us a little bit about your background, and we're going to talk about how we became friends.
Thank you, Chris. I think this idea for a show is amazing. I think we can educate the public in a lot of ways. From a robber, a former biggest jewel thief, a jewel robber, as people will tell you, the biggest jewel robber in the United States. How two things: my perspective on a crime or what law enforcement is doing, and how you could change your life and why positive law enforcement does help a person change their life and stay changed. Yeah. So I think that's important, the redemption part of a show like this. Obviously, meeting Mike here, the producer, I think is amazing. Please go check out Chris DiGiuseppi, is right here, Chief. I'll be calling him Chief on the show. Yeah. And, of course, Mike is the producer. You guys will get to know Mike as well. My perspective is going to be different. And as you know on my show, I'm going to say it like it is. We talked about a couple of titles, and it could have been the bald guys talking, but it wasn't.
That's right.
It's going to be a straight talk, and we want to educate you. So if you're positive or you're against law enforcement, you should listen to this. You're going to get information to either debate your side or be positive on the other side.
And you know me, Larry. You know what? I mean, I'm a person. I don't push this on anybody, but I'm a person of faith. I ground myself. That's how that's where I am, and I got to speak the truth. So, it's I stand up for my profession. I want to give everybody a perspective on what law enforcement is and what it's like to be a cop, what it's like to be a police administrator at times. And if somebody's wrong, sometimes there are people in my profession that are wrong. I call it out. Sometimes there are perspectives that the public doesn't understand, and I'm trying to educate the public on that too. Really taking us behind the badge and putting you in that driver's seat to make you understand what it's like, in modern day law enforcement is one of our goals. And we go to somebody, Larry, who did some things in his life, committed some crimes. I mean, went to federal prison, some of the worst prisons in the United States, right? Has a perspective that I don't have. And we need to flush that out. I think it's good.
One of the things I think that everyone's going to grab, especially me, it's why I love sitting cage side inside of podcasts, is because podcasting is perspective. It's captured perspective. Yeah. And the stories that you guys are going to provide with us, but most importantly, the perspectives that you guys are going to provide about the topics we talk about, is just going to be awesome.
Well, that's really such a way to say it, and I like that too. The reason I like podcasts, I listen to a lot of them, from Kill Tony Comedies, a lot, the number one live podcast, of course, Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, a lot of the big ones I love to listen to. And I wanted to say on this part, Chief said it beforehand, the reason I think this show can be very, very successful and educational at the same time and entertaining is because we are the subject matter experts. You are chief of police for 33 years. I've been a criminal since I was a kid, and I'm the old one in the room, but we're close enough that we're going to say we're all the same age. And I think your perspective, Chief, and then Mike's perspective as a civilian is a great a recipe for a show.
Absolutely.
Because there's so many questions I have, even to this day. Right. And I know people get out there and say, whether it's how to handle a traffic stop. Right. Or what do you do when you run across an asshole cop? Right. Can we talk? Can we use language what we want?
For sure.
Okay, I just want to know.
I'm kind of the Boy Scout here, so I'm going to remind you, family show, Larry. And when I say family, I'm Sicilian. I'm not talking like mafia family. You know.
See, I was right away. It went to
see right there. But yeah. You know, you could use the language you want, but sometimes me and Larry, we go into places and I go, okay, Larry, we're going to be talking to the mothers of preschoolers.
Yeah. Larry, I promise to make sure that Chris is more tame with his language than usual.
Here's a list of words, Larry, you can't use. Oh, I won't use those. Hey,
the George Carlin words?
Yeah, yeah, those. Hey, kids, you ever been in a Turkish prison? I'm like, okay, don't say that either. All right.
Do you know, that brings back a memory, right, with law enforcement. I am the only ex-con in the United States who's an honorary police officer, thanks to your former mentor and my law enforcement mentor, and that's why I call him Mike Force, Chief Mike. I was just with him for breakfast, and it really brought up an event. I do a lot of speaking events, and I spoke to the DARE Association for North Carolina, the whole state.
Yeah.
And we went to a school, and there were 500 kids in an auditorium.
Yep.
And they brought me in shackles and cuffs. And Chris,
wow,
the law enforcement now I know they're very good guys.
Yeah.
I suggested, here's how we should do it. Bring me in shackles and cuffs with 2 cops on each side and bring me into the middle of the auditorium.
Yeah.
And there's news there, everybody. And when I walked in and the jangling of the chains hitting the ground, because I was literally in belly chains, the whole works, legs. I actually have a set of those because I showed someone how to get out of handcuffs. I showed the public how to get out of handcuffs.
Right.
That's a good one.
Right.
But it was amazing, Chris, that to see the silence in the room when I walked in and kids, and my opening line, and I'm going to say it, is usually, can anybody in this room hide a knife up their ass?
Right.
That shocks a room.
That's the thing we don't talk about with the mothers of preschoolers or the Bridge Club. But, like I said, I got to steer Larry. It's okay.
It's effective.
Chris,
I give Larry a lot of trouble.
It's all about context,
Yeah.
It's all about context.
Right.
Mike, why I like podcasts more than anything is because you can get into a deep conversation. It's not. I do a lot of TV, and you get 7 minutes. You get even a big show like when I was on the Huckabee show. You had all 3 of us: myself, Tommy Chung, and a former pastor who killed somebody. He did less time than me. Go figure. But anyway, the show was about redemption.
Absolutely.
And we only got 10 minutes, 12 minutes because, with commercial breaks and stuff like that.
Right.
We can do what we want here.
Right.
And we have I'm telling you, seeing and talking to Mike already, it's great, unbelievable studio. And I think we can do things remotely when we have to. And when I'm here, not. Great. And I think this can be really, really well.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Larry's story is Larry Larry robbed jewelry stores up and down the East Coast. Larry got caught. FBI caught him. He went to jail for 11 years in some of the worst prisons across America. And he got out and he formed a program called the Reality Check program that kept kids out of jail. And the program was so successful, 80-90% successful. They did independent studies on it where the people that went to this program never got arrested again. That's what I want as a law enforcement officer. That's what I want. That's, one of our goals, to get people to not, commit crime repetitively, to stop, to change their lives. Larry changed his life around. And so, when my former boss, said, hey, this is a great program, he actually went down to Florida. He watched it. He vetted it. He came back. We made Larry an honorary police officer. And I mean, if I'm honest, there were people who goes, what are you doing? He's a convicted felon. He's an ex-con, this and that. And we said, you know what? This program is important. This program needs credibility. This program is helping people. People can change. Right, Larry?
Well, that's a great perspective. And what he's talking about is a reality check program. And I always explain it to anybody in law enforcement or schools or whatever. Who are kids going to listen to? You, who they think were a choir boy, and I know most chiefs and most police officers, most people, there's no choir boys. Even you, Chief. And
just call me out.
No, I'm not calling you out. I'm talking about all people make mistakes or go down wrong paths.
We do.
And that'll be in the faith episode. I think it should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also believe that they want to hear the truth, and very brutally honest, good, bad, or indifference. And sometimes I get pushback on that.
Yeah.
And then I look and I say, wait a minute, you have to stay true to yourself.
Yeah.
And I did 4 12-year sentences. They actually ran them concurrent. I beat a life sentence. I beat a 924C gun charge. Got my law degree. I have enough credits to be law. I went to Blackstone University out of Pennsylvania. Did the law for 10 years. Won cases in the Supreme Court, literally, for stuff like this. So you're going to get a little lawyerly. I'm going to get a little lawyerly. When I talked to my editor, Nick, and we were talking about the show last night, and he goes, Larry, he goes, you know what? Sometimes you get me mad because you know, when you want to argue, you get into that lawyerly mode, and and then I don't know how to answer you because it's and you're right, but you're not right, but because the guy's off. Like, is O.J. Simpson, was he guilty? He's dead now. Was he guilty? I said no. He goes, come on, do you really? I said, listen, the law is the law. If you want to believe in one part, you can't just believe in the part you want. And that does go through to a point.
Well, and the integrity of the criminal justice system. Do I think that O.J. Simpson is there a chance that I think that he was guilty? I don't know. Give me the whole case. Let me take a look at the whole case. I want to see all the facts. But there was some compelling evidence there.
And you're also not on the jury, though.
And I'm
Remember
not
that.
I'm not on the jury. And I can apply that. I can tell you, hey, we're in the St. Louis area here, too. We had Ferguson that happened X number of years ago. I can tell you, I was not on the jury. I was not on the grand jury and stuff. They're looking at all kinds of things that I don't see. And that's kind of why I reserve some of my opinions until I see what the outcomes of these court cases are.
100%.
But everybody, and I believe in this because I got to believe in the criminal justice system, everybody is innocent until they're proven guilty. And you have to preserve the integrity of that. Now,
but you're rare. Let me stop you, Chris, and here's why. I put rare because, sadly, there's sometimes I don't believe the people want change like you do. I think I look now at people like, chaos is somewhat good for me as a career. I'm doing good. The jails are full. And we're going to even get into jails with sheriffs and how they run the jail, so to speak, or why they run the jail. I don't believe they should run the jail because they can then maneuver numbers. If I am the sheriff and I want to get more money, and I say my jail's crowded, I tell my officers, arrest everybody for the minor stuff. And when I want to, hey, I'm doing great in crime, stop arresting people for the minor stuff. You're rare. And I'm saying, maybe you're not, maybe you're not. I think you are.
This is why I'm here
you're
on the
a civilian. I deal with a lot of law enforcement. And everybody out there, I am an honorary police. I can't have a gun. That's part of the rule.
Larry cannot arrest you either.
I don't even know.
Throw it out there. If Larry tries to arrest you, it's a bad
Hey,
thing.
wait. There is called a citizen's arrest.
Okay, he's going to try to citizen's arrest you.
Get legally. No, Chris, what is Chris saying? Actually, during Ferguson, I called you, if you remember.
Yeah.
And if he needed help to connect with the community, I was flying in. And, the pay is pretty bad here in St. Louis since it's zero for me.
Yeah, right. We sign people up as volunteers, and then we can. In fact, last year we gave Larry a 100% pay increase. He's still complaining about it. I don't know.
Well, the price of gas is going up.
The price of gas is going up. Right.
Again, what I love about all this conversation is that there's so many different topics that I've already started crafting a list of different things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Whether it's things that we've glanced on inside of the WhatCopsWatch.com channel or something that Larry has glanced on inside of his YouTube presence. There are many topics also inside of Larry's book that I have got to tell everybody, go and get Larry's book.
Oh, yeah.
Bestseller.
What I love about it most is that it's not you anymore. I don't know if you realize that.
100%.
Okay.
And I'm happy about that.
You and I both. And that's what I love about everything that this program is going to do, because this is about changing lives. And it doesn't matter whether you're on the side of the law, i.e. the cops, or if you are on the side of the robbers. Well, the bottom line is that both of you impact lives, and that's why I'm honored to be the producer of a show like this.
And we're honored to have you.
And we're here, and I want to touch on something that you said before. We're here to break down those walls. You can't have community policing without having the police and the community.
Right.
And you got to be on the same page. It's not an us versus them mentality. But I can tell when you guys say, hey, you're rare. No, I'm not. I mean, I can show you police leaders that want the same things I want, that that will have the discussions, this and that. There's perspectives, though, that I need the public to know about. When you talk about, hey, a cop acted like a jerk. Well, there's a variety of perspectives of, well, why did that happen? Yeah, it does happen. It can happen. But,
don't over talk. A big problem with law enforcement, and I'm jumping right out there. First of all, I'm all over there already because what he said, I have so many show ideas with the Diddy case, with a bunch of different cases, because I have different perspectives. You said something about innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Why is he in jail? Why is there no bond? You only get no bond for two reasons. You're either a threat to the community or you're a flight risk.
Yeah.
That's the only two reasons.
Yeah.
Give me where he's a threat to the community, and give me a threat where when he was going to put up $50 million, pay for agents of the court to stay in his house, monitor his phone calls, and give a list of every visitor. Because understanding the law the way I did, spending all that time in prison, it is a lot harder to defend yourself from prison than it is out at your lawyer's office.
And I want to talk about, because this is what me and my colleagues.
And you're different, Chief.
Yeah, we are different.
No, you're different. No. You're gonna prove it to me.
Well, and here's the other thing though too. I want to talk about a perspective from where me and my colleagues in law enforcement stand, how hard of a job it is to try to reduce crime, and some of the things that are not working. If you don't offer, and I think Larry even will agree with me on this, if you don't offer a deterrent to some level, because I could tell, I was talking to Larry the other day about the juvenile problem that we have. If you let a kid steal a car from the time he's 13 to the time he's 18, and you don't detain him, hold him, stop him from doing that, and then try to break that mold, you're not doing him any good. By the time he gets to be 18,
he'll be in jail for life.
He's going to be in jail for life. Because it progresses. I steal a car, I get confidence. I steal another car, I get confidence. Nobody's holding me accountable.
That's more the issue of the family.
And then it progresses to some other crime, and then I've seen it time and time. And then it progresses to a violent crime somewhere in there, and all of a sudden he steps over that line. He goes to jail for the rest of his life. Did we help that kid? No, we did not. So there is a time to arrest somebody. There is a time to detain somebody. There is a time to use good discretion.
This is
100% agree with the Chief.
This is a perfect piece to throw in a little bit of a confession here. When I was 13 years old.
Oh my gosh! Is the statute of limitations up?
Yeah, if it's not, that's a real crime.
When I was 13 years old, 13 years old was a very tumultuous time for me.
Sure.
Mostly because I was then 7 years removed from my dad leaving my mom and I when I was 6, and so. I kind of was a man at age 7, 8, 9, because there wasn't a man in my life.
Right.
And in middle school, I met a man named Mr. Isaacson. Mr. Isaacson he's still around, and I love connecting with him. Mm-hmm. But he's one of the guiding lights inside of my life because I was not getting it. Mm-hmm. A 13-year-old, I was very wayward.
What were you doing wrong? Come on, this is the real show here.
I was doing things I should not have been doing.
We'll leave it at that.
I couldn't say that to the judge.
I know, but
I appreciate
he went in front
of
the judge.
Right.
Yes.
The bottom line is I was doing things I should not have been doing, and
as we all
I didn't
have.
get it until I met Detective Cooper.
Yeah.
And between Detective Cooper and Mr. Isaacson, I found a very clear path that involved everything I wasn't doing previously. And again, total thanks to them, but it's one of the reasons that galvanizes me to do something like whatcopswatch.com.
Right.
And to talk with all the people that I work with inside of crisis negotiation, because giving back to law enforcement that helps build the community that I want and needed back then is the absolute reason why I'm involved with all of what we're doing.
And that's what I want to prove to Larry too. You know what? Let me introduce you to some other people in law enforcement that are good people. He's met quite a few too.
Yeah.
But I do have, my profession is filled with people. I'm telling you, I've seen stories where I've seen cops that are empathetic, compassionate. They go the distance for other people and stuff like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I got people in my profession that shouldn't be in the profession. If you don't have those ethical values, if you don't have that basis, I've seen leaders that shouldn't be in there. They shouldn't be in there.
There are deep topics, and they're good. Yeah. I always support good law enforcement.
Yeah,
but I also will
And we're going to talk about painting with a broad
outwardly,
brush.
I will
Everybody.
outwardly, Chris, talk about the bad. And when,
So will I.
at what point do I start blaming, if you want to call it blame, I hate the word, but I start holding accountable the chief or the other people
There's
that are
times
in that.
when you should.
Absolutely, because when you see, we'll get into audits, we'll do a bunch of stuff, because it comes down. You made a great point the other day about the training and stuff, and that, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I want to let the people know I'm not here to be all a flag of a cop and be. I'm gonna give the pushback from what comes from the criminal community,
And I need that. I want that.
and I am still in contact with probably 80 prisons where I can get emails, and literally, I think you have them, Chris. I'm gonna bring them for you, Mike, and on a show, I'm gonna read some of the letters that come with guys with life sentences who wrote to the kids of my program. And what they say is amazing. And I know these people with life sentences and did some bad crimes, or some that did not deserve life, because we're going to talk about sentencing injustices and how the system could hurt you. Your other thing, one point, and I'll let you go on this, is yes, any agency, any business that has 100 employees is going to have bad people, period.
Yeah.
It's recognizing that.
Yeah.
Not covering them up. One of the biggest problems law enforcement has with any community is when they know, listen, a small example, I know a cop that smokes weed. Then he's out there arresting people for weed and not even going the extra mile to arrest them. Instead, so talk about hypocritical.
Well, and here's where I'll say.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't smoke weed.
He could well, it's all, there's a big dispute, like in our state here, there's recreational marijuana, medical marijuana, and all that kind of stuff, but it's illegal in your state. He's committing an illegal act, I'm assuming, and then he's going out there and being the hypocrite and all that kind of stuff. And you're right, that's wrong, that's unethically wrong, I'll call it. You shouldn't be doing that. So why does he do that? What's going on? And we're going to get into this in the faith-based episode. Do I extend him some grace? Does he have a problem? Does he have does he have an emotional problem? We're going to talk about all that, because I'm going to tell you this. Officer wellness is a thing. And I'm going to criticize, because 33 years in law enforcement, we did not do a good job when I started. And I'm going to go over all the trauma, and I'm going to go over all the things that we picked up on, where back in the day when I started, hey, you know what? You didn't reach out and say, man, that scene really bothered me, I need some help. Because that would have been like, oh, you can't do this job. Should you have a gun? Yeah. You might get fired. That was the fear.
Not only was that a valid fear, it was also, again, one of the foundational blocks of building whatcopswatch.com. Because in addition to being able to have cops talk about what they feel and see, it was also letting the public see that cops can talk about what they feel and see. Right. So that they can see that the people behind the badge, behind the duty belt, the guys that carry a gun every day, are just people like you and I.
But both of you have to realize, I am more, I hate to use the word hard even, I am more critical of law enforcement, because they hold the power to take a person's liberty or life under the color of law. And the community sees that. So the community don't want to hear Chief say, we're going to really analyze this guy and make sure. I will give a person a break. Listen, I did a lot of bad things in my life, and thank God I do had people, and people still believe in me, and I think my heart's good because I want to help people. Bottom line. But you made a great point earlier, Mike, having mentors at that age, and you could have mentors at any age. I became
100%.
Chief Force.
100%
is my law enforcement mentor, and now Chief DiGiuseppi He's younger, so no.
Right, that's right.
Chief Force was older than me.
I'm the younger brother.
No, I got to know Chief DiGiuseppi very well, and that is why there's nothing I won't do for their department, because I understand where his heart's going, and I think that's why he's been the chief for 10 years. The average duration of a chief is 3 years in the United States. I know this. I spoke to the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the ethics committee. You remember the whole board. And to see Chief Force, former Chief, 25 years, and you on your way until you know, whatever your timing is done. And to have the community, to have cop, I think they're positive.
Yeah.
But I also don't want people to tune into this show and say, what is this? I'm just, it's even the country. I love my country, but I will push against my country.
This is truth. This isn't where you're
right.
Not,
this is truth.
This is truth, and it's also perspective, and that's what I want. What I'm saying is, if you're looking to me to stand up and say every cop's right all the time, and I'm going to defend them, that I'm not doing it.
Right.
I don't, because I don't identify in myself. My basis is my faith, and I got to tell the truth.
Do you have? I know you do. You have body cams.
We do.
The police department where I am from, it's 180 cops. It's a city of 125,000. It's about, I don't know, 160. Well, I don't know the number. I got to know the chief very well, the former chiefs, the head of the FBI Academy, you know, like with when you all went to the FBI Academy. He's been, Chief met him, Chief Force met him. And I was the one who got the city to change their perspective and minds on body cams. And now they have body cams. Right. Because I am the biggest believer in body cams for protection of cops as well as protection of communities.
And when police officers get body cams, I can tell you, I'm going to tell you the behind-the-scenes stories, the behind-the-scenes thoughts and stuff. Police officers get body cams, and the administration comes in. I know I've been in administration. I've been 17 years. I was the assistant chief of police. I'm going on 8 years as the chief of police. You bring in body cams and cops go, "Oh, you're trying to watch me." You know, I mean, it's a paranoia. I understand it.
Sure.
I was in
cameras are big brother to just about anybody.
I was in that culture.
That
and
makes
you know
sense.
what happens after a year or so? They go, "Hey man, that thing saved my neck."
No question.
16 times.
No question.
And they go, "Yeah, I got it on body cam." And you know what? If I'm acting professionally on body cam and the public's not, and that's the other educational perspective. We're going to talk about one concept that I told Larry yesterday. I said, you know, I don't need to put you through training to teach you don't be a jerk, right? Same thing with the public. I'm going to tell them, you want a good, it's not going to happen all the time, but do you want a good interaction with that police officer? Don't be a jerk. You know,
but Chris, you know,
but they
got to know the law.
Sure, they do. But what I'm saying is, as human beings, if we interact, if we treat each other with dignity and respect, and the things that I tell law enforcement is, there's no requirement to be a professional citizen. You know, there's not a requirement, but we are held to a standard to where we're going to be professional, even if somebody's not going to be professional back to us. But treat everybody with dignity and respect,
right? Not
because you have to, because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. There's a piece of a video that we just put together for Lieutenant Pat over at crisiscop.com. And it's essentially the breakdown of the Tyreek pullover video, which has been all the rage. And inside of that is exactly what he's talking about. There's a teeter-totter inside of a traffic stop. And I love that both of you are going to be able to provide the context to that.
Absolutely.
I have questions for Chief right now that are blowing my mind away.
Right. And I love that. And again, because you have them, that means that everybody that's listening also has them. And I have one question for everybody that's listening. Have you subscribed to the channel yet?
Yeah.
Because if you haven't, you need to make sure you do that. Click the subscribe if you're watching inside of YouTube. But then also just remember, you can get everything that we're talking about over at whatcopswatch.com, but then also via Larry's stuff that you can find via YouTube, but also in the show notes for this episode over at whatcopswatch.com.
Right.
Very good. And just to let everybody know right now, call commercial break time. No, you will be able to get it on all my platforms. From TikTok to this, I'll have links put on everywhere, from Facebook to TikTok to Instagram to multiple shows to YouTube to podcasts to others, and I can go on and talk about what I'm doing now. I have a couple of things really quick.
Yeah, go for
it. With Chief here, and you know, I speak to enough police officers and departments and on traffic stops, the most dangerous part of a police officer's profession. I sat around one time with a bunch of chiefs of police, and we were discussing this. And now in today's world, I don't think police officers should pull people over for not doing their turn signal, or hear me out,
okay,
or a license plate light, or roll the stop sign. Those to me and to most of the public are excuses to pull me over. Now,
Could be.
what they could do is in today's technology is you see it, it's on your dash cam, write it in, send them a warning ticket. You did the same kind of. Now, I'm not talking about a guy going 100 miles an hour down the street is going to hurt one of your citizens.
Right.
You got to get that. Or I'm not talking about if he's a known my former self. Yeah, come get me, and I know they would. They did with the FBI and helicopters. And that's when I owned the city. Yeah. But that's a whole nother story. But I want everybody to know that there's going to be pushback on, and I have such great questions for and to have a civilian somewhat my age, and I think a good idea what we're going to do is bring sometimes young people.
Sure, absolutely.
Bring a 22-year-old
I want
on
that
here.
Perspective. It's
We
all
have
about perspective.
the capabilities to do that here in the studio, or even probably remotely, but mostly with that would be, I think, a studio. And you bring a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old or legal who just drives, he's got a fake ID. There's so many topics because they don't think like we do.
No.
And I don't even think like I did 10, 15 years ago because I deal enough. I sometimes get madder because I'm getting older, and when I see a cop doesn't even know the First Amendment or doesn't know the Fourth Amendment, searches and seizures, or rights to this or the Eighth Amendment, there's certain things a police officer should know before even opening his mouth.
Yeah. And young people's perspective is, this is where I'm twisted on Larry. Young people's perspective is different. Now, when you say I bring in a young person, 21 years old, if they're a cop, because they can be a cop at 21 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But, and we're going to talk about that too.
Chief, a guy's brain, a male brain does not mature until it's 25.
Sure.
I have a big issue personally with the military, getting a kid going to Afghanistan, blowing some kids because he's a sniper and killing people over whatever they believe in war, and coming back to this country and their brain isn't full.
But if I get a kid at 21 and I put him in the police academy and I want to mold him into the right type of person, if I get him early on, that might be better for development.
You got to get him earlier. You got to get him the values you said earlier.
You do, and
I can't do that.
Nah, I know that.
Mom and dad got to do that,
That gets back to mentoring. And mentoring, getting them early enough where there is a guide and a mentor on the front
end. But guys, you're missing the point there too.
But
you're giving them a gun and a badge.
Sure you are.
And now that kid comes up.
Along with the training.
Well,
they don't walk into the academy. They don't walk into the academy.
Do you know how long the academy is?
But you got it.
I do. It's 6 months typically.
But it goes beyond that. You've got to get them. This is why, and Larry will agree with me on this. This is where he'll agree with me on it. You have to have good leadership, because the mentoring doesn't stop.
Right.
I can tell you it doesn't stop.
Right.
My police officers, and most of them are younger than I am, right? They're like having kids. They're like your kids. I'm not saying they're kids, but I'm saying, like, when you have kids, you nurture those kids, you treat them, you have to train them, you have to lead them, you have to show them what's right and what's wrong and stuff like that. Now, when they come to you as an adult, they should have some of those core values already there. That's what we look for when we recruit and retain. Recruitment and retainment is not easy these days.
100%. And I understand why. Totally I'm a big supporter of anybody hears my shows, Mike, and you know this, from more pay. For police, because if I was a cop, and I say this right out, if I was stopping a person in Miami and they had $500,000 in the trunk, and I know that the system has got it where they're out in 10 minutes and they don't give a shit, because I got out back then in that quickly, getting caught with, $35,000 cash in a car, some coke in the thing, and I could care less. I know it's going to cost me money, but I'm out. And I do believe, Chris, that I would steal that. Yeah. Now, I can't feed my family. They got to work 2 jobs. And I think that's wrong. Now, I don't think, but getting back to the one thing you can't change, if you get a 21-year-old cop who makes that bad decision, it affects people's lives to the biggest degree we have in this country. I agree. So why are we taking a shot at a kid who's going to do? I'll give you a quick example. My friend, you might know him, Joe Ferrini, older, he just passed, one of my greatest friends. And from old days even, but anyway, he's, at the time, he was like 78, and he's out to dinner with his wife and another couple in the back of their car. He goes up to a, Stein, gets lit up after the turn, and the cop he said, Larry, the kid got to be 20. He comes out and says, you rolled it. He's looking at him. The kid's looking, you rolled it.
Yeah.
License. And Joe goes, what? He goes, you rolled the stop sign. Give me a license. Now, I know the story so deep because Joe is a very successful man, and he told every dinner group and party, and we were at this story of how they treated him.
And why do I go back to dignity and respect? It's because of that.
But can you give it to a kid who's 20?
Yes.
With a badge?
Yeah.
With a badge and a gun?
Yes.
Without question.
You trust them?
They got to learn
Absolutely.
that. Well, I mean, if they're going to learn it at 20, they're going to learn it at 25. What I'm saying is, when you coach and mentor a person, when I have somebody come in and I interview, I look for their values. I look for their core value. I want to know. And yes, you can give it to them, but see, you're going the opposite. You're going, wait till their brain develops
Matures.
at 25. What I'm saying is, no, Larry. I need that kid to have those values back at 7 and 8 and 10 years old. I need their parents to instill that. I need that core value back in them back then, because then I've got a basis to work with. Go ahead.
We've just finished with what is likely one of the largest electional impacts ever
100%.
in human history.
I agree.
And what I always tell people about elections, regardless of your lean, is that your politics are determined by whom you surround yourself with.
Right.
Whether that's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's a workplace, whether it's an environment of just people that you are around.
Yeah.
All of your political guidelines are all instilled inside of you.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing with everything that are the foundational elements of your personality.
Right.
And if you don't have them early, you have to get them from somewhere. And what Chris is talking about is making sure that the foundational blocks, if they're not all erected when you are 21, entering into the academy, then you meet the people like Chris, like Chief Force, and the people that you've now surrounded yourself with to get the foundation that allows you to build a program that's identified by tens of thousands of
Let
people
me get
now,
this
Larry.
straight. I built my program a lot before I met Chief Force and Chief DiGiuseppi and the success rate. But it's not that. We connected
But if
because
you-
I respect them
right,
very
right.
much.
But if you had not found law enforcement, guess what, dude?
Oh yeah,
You're going to be one of the gangsters inside of GTA for real.
well, and it's
I
and
might
that's why
be.
it
I can't
matters.
really, give any information out. But
confession, Larry, don't go there. You got to get your lawyer.
I get my lawyer an NDA. No, guys, I'm not pushing back on a good. Listen,
Right.
I believe even mistakes. People say to me, "But Larry," I said, "Hold on." You'd make the same mistake or use it. I am not a guy that says every little thing a cop does. I'll tell you, there's rules I would make. Maybe I'm going to help change Chief's mind. I think anybody who has a body cam and shuts that off during a stop or does something where it mutes the thing, there's immediate dismissal.
But we never have any other cops because they make a mistake and they shut it off, or the thing goes dead. I mean,
They
I
make
can
that
tell-
mistake
I can tell
during a important time, or you see them. They get together and they mute their mics and they're talking in front of a car.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No,
You're right. I'm
you're
not
good.
banging. I'm sticking to the rules.
He's not He's not banging the table. Okay.
No begging in my studio. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry.
No, and look, you're right. There's other things that come in play. We just don't have enough time to do it on this podcast.
we don't.
But optics and politics. I know he's like, we don't want to talk about politics. Let me tell you something.
Oh, I'm going to talk.
Politics come into play in policing. I'll say it out loud. The chief's job is to keep the politics away from his people so they can do their job. We need to be unbiased and all that. But politics come into play. Do you know what the number one complaint is that I or the chief of police in a major urban area who has the unbelievable murder rate? You know what the number one complaint we get is? What is it?
I don't know.
Traffic. Speeding. My
Rolling
subdivision
stop signs in neighborhoods.
My subdivision.
Well, I'm guilty.
Larry's the problem. My subdivision.
No way.
It's a racetrack out there. That is over and over and over again. That is the number one complaint.
Right.
Now, is that the number one priority? No, I want the homicide rate down, right?
Oh, we got so many. Please write this one down.
Right. Drugs. We have other problems. But the number one complaint, who complain to the elected officials, who complain to the police chief, who complain to the elected sheriff, is traffic. So to get out there and impact traffic. You know what a losing game is? Traffic. I can write 1,000 speeding tickets, and it will reduce speeding for a while, and then everybody speed again. Now, does speeding cause traffic accidents? It does. Is it the crime of the century? It's not. If Larry's license plate light is out, is that the crime of the century? No. I need to be reasonable. I might pull Larry over and go, hey, did you know your license plate light was on?
But
No,
you know what everybody out there is listening is saying.
I didn't
That's
know.
bullshit, Chief. They're saying you're using anything, and I know this, and you know this. If a cop follows me or
Larry,
anybody, you could pull me over.
If I think you got 10 tons of coke in your trunk and your license plate light's out, I'm pulling you over. Yeah.
No, even if it wasn't out, you'd say it's out. I got stories on that. But Chief, I'm not saying that to get arguing with you. Obviously,
I am a big disbeliever in lying, though, Larry.
I'm not going to lie ever.
I'm a big no. I'm saying
I don't lie.
If your license plate is not out, I will not be pulling you over.
But you are the rarity, and that's going to be the show of this. The show.
There is another episode that's swimming around that's going to be called "Discrimination is Good." And the reason, hold on.
Oh, I want to hear this one.
Oh boy, Mike's going to put me on the hot seat here.
All right, I don't know who's getting. I'm
that's not true.
I'm getting. What do they call in YouTube when you get you blacklisted? I'm already blacklisted.
I know that you're so concerned about being blacklisted.
Yeah. All right.
Right. The bottom line, though, is that just making and looking at things and discrimination of the things that you see is just discernment.
Yeah.
You are building a series of things that don't add up, and as a police officer, it's a piece of your mandate to go and investigate things.
You are making it sound like the cops are the savior all. They're not.
They're not.
They're not. You know, I respect firemen, cops. They're going to come save my life, I hope.
Right.
And I think they will.
Depends on what Larry says on the show, though. Here, I don't know, man. You're right?
We're also going to be able to get in.
I tell you what, it doesn't matter who it is, and this is.
I know that with you, Chief.
It's with. I mean, I'm telling you, it's with law enforcement across the board. Mm-hmm. They will go save somebody's life if they absolutely despise that person. I've seen that happen. It doesn't matter. They could be the biggest problem in your whole city. If their life is in jeopardy, they're going to go.
How about the cop that just shot that lady with the water? Well, don't tell me. He says it right. And I killed her.
I'm not saying.
I mean, that case just blew me away.
And that is an individual case. And if the person's wrong, I will call it out and say that person's wrong. They're a criminal. They shouldn't be in law enforcement. I don't know that. I'm not saying that person is because I don't know the circumstance of that case. But I can tell you when George Floyd happened, I can tell you we came out with public statements saying that is not representation of us. That's wrong. That's a crime. I had people asking me, call me up and go, do you guys do chokeholds? I'm like, that is not a chokehold.
Right.
That is a crime.
Another topic that's going to come up. And the other thing to think about this too, Larry, is there are many criminal cases where you, as a former criminal, would look at the case and go, wait a minute, that guy doesn't represent all criminals. So just know that the same paint is going to work.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Podcast or whatever. We can take any profession we want, and you get paid.
I got a battle. This is going to be good, guys, because I'm going to be fighting with maybe a civilian. Definitely the chief, with respect.
We won't be. In the end, guys,
meaning, guys, we do have these same lively conversations, the chief and I, when we go to lunch with a judge.
Right.
We do. I am going to say it like it is. They know it,
and I am too,
and you are too, 100%. And that's what I respect. Again, you said things just the other day that made me start thinking in a different way.
Right.
I hope that I say things that when a chief is listening to the show or a police officer listens to the show, they look at that perspective as well. Because neither of us could be right, and we won't be right all the time.
No.
And we won't be, but we're going to do it with respect. We're going to do it with opening eyes, with the I always look at when I talk, and I do so much talking, that's what I do for a living, is try to get to a place where we can just change our perspective a little bit.
That's where I'm at too.
And I think everybody here is that.
I'll give you an example. Go ahead.
The bottom line about everything that we make is that life is a series of recipes that you get to then try and make on your own.
Yeah.
And along the line of the recipe, I am renowned for changing recipes because I am a picky, asshole-ish eater. I do not like lots and lots of stuff.
I'll eat anything.
But I love to cook. And so what I'm going to make are the stuffs that I like. And that's what life is. You take what is the original recipe of whatever you thought you knew and then you meet people, you experience things in your life, and you make the recipe, and then you craft whatever it is you're going to make.
Right.
And what I know this program will allow people to do is to dip in and grab the different ingredients and then craft your life, hopefully, in the parts that lean in the right direction, whether it be from a robber or from a cop in general, or from just a dude that's been watching both sides, crafting their life's recipe.
I do have a cookbook coming out. You've probably seen some of my videos on cooking, prison cooking with Larry Lawton. But also, we're going to talk about the things that really make me wonder why people don't like law enforcement. For the general, I'm not talking about most people either. I'm going to be talking about whatever.
And
here's why. The us against them mentality
we can't have it.
Got to stop.
You're right.
And it comes from law enforcement. It starts at law enforcement. And it starts at the top because law enforcement is the only profession that change comes from the top, not from the bottom. All the people that work for Chief Force want to please Chief Force. I'm sorry, guys, Chief DiGiuseppi. Well, but my point is, whatever chief they're working for, they want to please. So if Chief DiGiuseppi comes out and puts out, all right, guys, I don't care who they are, speed tickets, they're going to go out and give all the speed. Or we're going to give awards today or this month for the most arrests. You're going to have bad arrests. Give out awards for who speaks at the most churches. Give out awards for who Chief Force. One of the biggest things that made me really respect your department and both you and Chief Force, because you're both so like-minded. We're going to talk how we met with the books and stuff. But also, Chief Force gave a employee, an officer that he saw changing a lady's flat and didn't tell him. The guy didn't see the chief that he saw him. And you remember the situation, I'm sure. And he brought him into the city hall, and he gave him an award, called his wife, said, come in. You'll know it all. Right. And I got to thinking about that, and and Chief Force said, listen, I got more guys now wanting to change flats and do good for the community than, hey, I want to wreck the, hard note. Listen, I believe in consequences, but I also believe in empathy. I also believe in second chances. I also believe in... And here's another question. I'm going to even do it before I shut my mouth here. Do you have, we're going to talk about qualified immunity.
Sure.
And I do a lot with the law.
We'll probably be on opposite ends of that. But
we might not. We might. And there are things we are going to talk about that.
When we start talking about qualified immunity, we are definitely roping in Tommy for that. From
an attorney?
No, he's another police officer.
Bring him in, because I'm the attorney on this one, and trust me, I'm good at this one.
Cool. Yeah. The other thing that pointing at law enforcement and say it begins there, I totally agree. However, on the other side of the spectrum, it also begins with the robber / the criminal that understands that there is something else that has to happen from the criminal side also.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
it's what's referred to as in Tyreek's video as the game. There is a game that criminals play with law enforcement that has to be excised so that there can be an agreement in the middle.
But there's also
that's to the petty. There's no game with Larry Lawton robbing millions of dollars.
Yeah, but there is a game with this.
I get it.
There is a game with this. If I catch Larry Lawton in the act, he's still got the BB gun on him, and I get him at gunpoint and stuff like that, and Larry goes, "Hey, you ain't gonna have any problems out of me." I go, "Hey, Larry, you ain't gonna have any problems out of me either." Look, you're doing this. This is my job. I'm going to arrest you. But
that happened with me with the FBI.
I'm going
to
treat you with dignity and
absolutely.
Right, but at your house. The FBI got you at your house.
With a helicopter over the house.
Right, but not during the act of robbing a jewelry store.
No.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So,
the game of, I get what he's saying, but criminals, and I'll tell you criminals who are criminals, professional criminals.
Right.
Now, I'm not talking about the crackhead. I'm not talking about the guy who's down on his luck. I'm not talking about a lot of different things.
Right.
I deserve to be in prison. I'm the first one to admit that. And I didn't kill anybody in these things or didn't pistol whip or any of that. I wouldn't even put tape on their mouths because I didn't want them to choke and maybe die. That's how deep I thought about it.
Right.
So I'm not justifying my crimes at all, because there was hurt put on people, just the scare, the fear, that's all here nor there.
Right.
But the professional criminal like myself, we want to play as little game. Now, life is a game. if you want to call it that. And I totally understand. And I'm a big believer in here's the faith. We'll argue, not argue.
Yeah.
I believe life is all about the journey. As you know, I've learned things.
I agree with
it
that.
has not much to listen. Money. I've been a millionaire 3 times.
Yep.
Lost, gained, lost, taken. A lot of not mine. So I get that part of it.
Right.
I don't even chase money, and I'm not as wealthy as I could be in a lot of things because for a lot of reasons.
Yep.
But we all have to understand that there is the professional criminal. And then there's the
Amateur criminal.
Amateur, the down the luck, the drug addict, a lot of reasons, the abused victims. It can go on and on.
Right.
And there's reasons why. And I think even law enforcement has, I know it's more of the court's job to find out, oh, the kid was abused, let's give him as much and a lot of stuff. Cop can't know that on the spot.
But we try to intercept that. I mean, if we can make a difference, and you guys, like I said, you guys keep going. Well, you're the exception. I'm not. I'm telling you, I can show you other people in my profession that think.
Chris,
I
could too, but
we just have. But all of them. I'm not saying that all of them are like that. I'm saying there's problems with some people.
Right, of course you have
You
to.
know?
If anybody says there's not, they're nuts.
Yeah.
And-
Well, no, there's something that the chief was talking about that it speaks to, again, both angles of what we're talking about. And it's the painting with a wide brush.
That's right.
Whether it be from the criminal aspect or from law enforcement's aspect, painting with wide brushes always misses somebody inaccurately. And so we're going to talk about that inside a future program.
We're talking about.
But I thought that's a great
biases
question, though, and
It
I'll tell
is.
you why
It
it
is.
is. Because I'm a believer in the small department like Lake St. Louis Police Department, and I'll tell you why I believe in it. Because I think they can get down on a personal level bigger than being that government level. You know, you're attacked by the FBI. You're not going to know who. Listen, the FBI agents on my case came from Quantico, Virginia, Major Case Squad. Sure. So how are you going to get to know them? How are they going to be? They're there for the nuts and bolts and the stuff. Chief DiGiuseppi and his team. And whenever I say Chief DiGiuseppi, I want everybody to know I mean his department. He leads the department, but the department has to, because they all reflect back on you.
It does. And when we talk about leadership styles, and we'll do a whole episode on that. On
We got a lot of episodes
styles.
coming, people.
We got a lot of episodes. Leadership styles. I can tell you, just in a nutshell, that I've looked at all kinds of leadership styles. I was the assistant chief for 17 years. I've been in the chief's position for 8 years. I've seen people succeed. I've seen people fail. A servant-based leadership style is the only leadership style that I've seen that's successful and sustainable. And basically what that is I'm not just serving the public. I go down to my people and I go, look, and I make decisions. They don't like every decision I make, but I get feedback. How can I serve you? Because when you do that, when I go to you, Mike Wilkerson, what resources do you need? How can I serve you? Hey, you know what? You did a good job. You know, what can I do to you? You know what you do? You turn around and you go, well, how can I serve the public? How can I make somebody's life better? How can I help somebody else? And that's really why we're here. We're here to help people. Larry, can somebody be helped by being arrested?
Absolutely.
All right.
Can someone be hurt by being arrested?
Yes. Okay. Yes. And that's where that discretion comes into play.
It is.
And are we going to change the person's life for the better? But there's things that come into play too from a perspective of law enforcement that I want to educate you and the audience on, and there's things that I want you to educate us on too. For instance, somebody gets picked on some petty thing like we were talking about the other day. It was a motorcycle endorsement, and basically somebody got their motorcycle towed, and it was and you could, it's a ticket, right? You write them a ticket, hey, or you give them a warning, go get that fixed. Now, its thought process are important. I get a young cop out there. Why would he go and tow somebody's bike? What's the thought process? This is me as a leader. Hey, why did we do? Why don't we just write a ticket and let the person go? Why don't we just write a ticket and let the person go, or whatnot? Now, it could be, and I'm not making excuses here, Larry. Hear me.
I don't think you are.
But I'm giving perspective. Sometimes we fall into a trap. Law enforcement falls into a trap. I can say, well, sometimes I get somebody in law enforcement that's just a jerk, and they're using their authority. They're going to be a jerk, and they're going to impose their will and all that. That's wrong. They shouldn't be like that. Like I said, dignity and respect. However, sometimes it's a matter of fear. If I let this person go and they don't have this endorsement, sounds trivial to all of us sitting in the room. If they go down the road and they crash, is it going to come back on me? Legally, I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of people who are attorneys and all that. No, it's not going to come back. I mean, you didn't cause them to wreck, but there's also another court out there called the Court of Public Opinion. Is it powerful?
Goes both ways.
Is it? It does. Is it powerful, Larry?
It is. Perception is reality.
And for those people out there who say, "Hey, the Court of Public Opinion shouldn't affect," I can tell you how the world should be and how the world is. And I'm going to shoot you straight. The Court of Public Opinion does affect things, lots of things.
Absolutely.
And it shouldn't. There's a lot of things it shouldn't. So if, this is an easier concept. I pull Larry over and he's just drunk, right? And I go, "Hey, you're drunk. Okay, here's the deal. I want you to take your car down to that gas station. I'm going to cut you a break, Larry. Take your car down to that gas station, park it there. You get a ride. I'm being a nice guy. I'm not going to haul you in." Larry kills somebody in that drive, they're coming after me, right? Because I didn't stop that. Larry's speeding, and I pull him over, and I write him a ticket, and I let him go, and I don't tow his car and everything. He goes down the road, and he crashes. It's probably not on me, right? They're not coming back on me. But then again, you don't know. You just don't know. And we have a fear sometimes in law enforcement of what's the repercussions. What's the
That's
repercussions?
plausible deniability. I think. Listen, as a lawyer,
Not saying it's right or- I'm
there's
not-
a way I can
I'm not
defend
saying
both
it's
of
right or
those.
wrong.
And I'm
just
not saying you should have to.
saying
Again,
it's there.
we're going to get into that with qualified immunity. But going back to a couple of things, law enforcement could be fixed, and I believe it, and that's why I keep talking about it. When I say fixed, it irked me years ago during the lockdown, we're going to call it the COVID lockdown, defund the police.
Right.
When people think they want to shut down, I think the messaging on that side was way off.
Sure.
Because it should have been reallocating funds.
Sure. Right. Well,
A lot of people would have understood that and would have said, you know what? I think they need more money and I'll tell you one, in community policing. Now, how community policing works, and I'm going to warn all you chiefs out there, and all the chiefs people.
But that's not what defund the police meant for some.
Some
wanted to do away with the police.
I know, that's just ludicrous. Anybody who knows, that's like, that's ludicrous, and you and I know it.
Right.
Most people out there know it.
Right.
Now, you want a cop. Listen, when your house is being robbed, you call 411 or 911?
That's right.
People don't know what 411 is.
I was
The
just
young
gonna say,
ones.
nobody calls 411 anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But 100% that what you just said there, and I don't know if it's laws on the books, how many stupid laws, and what ones it's hard for me then to say, hey, listen, you shouldn't enforce that law. Because now you're becoming the judge, jury, and executioner.
I am absolutely against having a law on the book that you don't enforce. Change that law or do away with the law.
Oh, we will get into that one because there's laws on the books that
It shouldn't be there.
But you would enforce them?
No, I'm saying.
You said you don't believe. Oh, you don't believe.
I don't
there's a
believe
law.
they should keep that law on the book.
Oh, gotcha.
So if you're going to keep that law on the book, don't come back to me and go, hey, this is the politics. Don't come back to me and go, well, you got that law on the books, but don't enforce that. We just have.
Oh, you mean the officials actually saying that?
I'm not saying officials, but I mean the public.
State attorney, U.S. attorney.
The bottom line there is it a rule? Is it a rule
Now,
or is it not a rule?
Now, sometimes you have a law on the books that's unenforceable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you an example. This is a reality, and this is a reality that I tell law enforcement, I tell law enforcement leadership. If you have an overwhelming majority of your population that wants to do something, they're going to do it.
That was proven with the drug war.
Example is this. I got 20,000 people in my city. We used to ban fireworks. You couldn't shoot fireworks. It's an ordinance, right? If 17,000 people want to shoot fireworks off, 30 cops are not going to stop them. It's going to happen. So, we changed that. And we went out and we got
They
feedback.
changed it on the books?
me and our elected officials changed it. We went out and we did a survey. We put a crew together and we said, hey, public, give us feedback on this. Well, what we found out was 70% of the people out there after the survey either wanted limited use or didn't care. And I said, this is why it's not enforceable. So they said, well, let's give a couple days that they can shoot it off. Display your patriotism on the 4th of July. They're dangerous. I've seen houses burned down, everything else. People get burned. What? But
I was just looking at a video on my phone of my son in Brooklyn putting off fireworks. It looked like a bomb's going off. Yeah. Thousands and thousands of dollars of fireworks in the streets. I got to show it to you guys.
They're still regulated. There's still got to be.
And that's New York City.
There's still got to be, and I'm sure it's illegal there.
It is.
But you know what? If the overwhelming majority of people want to do something, you're not going to stop them. Do the people still have power to change the system? The answer is yes. You still have power to change the system.
Yeah.
So, well, but bucking on that one bit, obviously there's gambling, prostitution. We talked a little about that when we're going to have a show on that one with Shima
Rastani from Gateway Alliance Against Human Trafficking.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, we talked about that and prostitution being one of the oldest living professions. Obviously, that gambling. There are on the books, and I often wonder when you let something go along for X amount of time. Larry Lawton was a bookie, a very big bookie. Mm-hmm. They never got me for bookie because it was they didn't care. The feds, I'm talking about now. Now, I have a question for you when you changed the law in your books here with the fireworks. Was that done through the city, or was it a county, or was it a state? So just in Lake St. Louis, you can now, again, use your page. I'm sure there's limited
use, yes. Yeah, on July 3rd and 4th, you can shoot off fireworks, certain fireworks. You can shoot off fireworks from noon to 10:30 p.m. It is legal. We encourage everybody to be safe. My police officers have the discretion to, now it says, you can't shoot them off the street. I can't have you setting them up in a lane of traffic and cars running over and stuff like that, right?
Video.
So, but if you're in a court, we can move it to certain places where it's safer. I don't want somebody lighting their house on fire either.
Sequestering fireworks is a piece of what should be some sort of commonsensical thinking going on inside of a giant event like that.
But how do you train a new cop, Chief? Chief, you get a guy on. Obviously, that's a law. That's a city law. Mm-hmm. You got guys coming from different departments all the time, I'm sure, whether it's sheriffs, different agencies, and that's a part of it. How do you train them on a city law like that? I mean, it's bad enough cops don't know some of them. And I literally did an interview or a survey, and I surveyed 50 police officers. And did you know only, I think it was 12 or 15 could name the amendments I talk about, Constitution.
And here's why I push back.
And understanding them. No. I don't mean, First Amendment. Third Amendment.
So what I'm saying is you can't know every law. You can't know every statute. The first thing that, when people come to our department, and this is like this with other departments, you got what you got to learn first? The culture of the department. These are our values. These are what we do. This is our mindset. We're out here to go help people.
Just like a workplace.
Right.
It's very much like a workplace.
Right. So you got to learn the culture. Within that culture, then you're going to figure out. You go through the first 4th of July. Hey, here's a reminder. Here's the ordinance. Here's what we're allowed to do. And we just don't throw somebody on the street. You go through field training. You're put with a veteran officer. They teach you that culture. Then you're put with another field trainer. You keep teaching that.
Now, are they true to a car then?
I also want to give you some
training, yes.
Okay, good.
I want to give you some perspective on field training as well. We've got a guy that does that he is a field trainer in a police department. It's Tom.
I watched the field trainer on YouTube be the one that's in jail now in the the George Floyd case. I do many videos on Derek Chauvin, and I'm the only person on the internet and all over, and this is proven now because I said it. I picked the exact time they were going to give him 22 and a half years. And I'm the only one because I was giving out a free merch box of something of anybody who can guess to the closest of how much time Derek Chauvin would get. I won because I read his PSI. It's called a pre-sentence investigation, and understanding the law and kind of put myself in the mindset of a judge and literally pick 22 and a half years, and he got 22 and a half years. People were saying, and it couldn't be faked because the show was up before the sentencing, so you can't go back.
And I don't know all, and that's my thing with when I look at those cases and stuff. That's why I reserve judgment, opinion, and stuff like that. I'm not seeing everything that judge is seeing. I'm not seeing everything that court is seeing. So, what's the outcome in court? Because there's tons. That's what I'm saying. The court of public opinion. There's tons of rhetoric that goes on.
But you just read it that's saying it's about the culture of that department.
It's about the culture, yes.
Well,
it's
then
about the culture of the department.
It's the culture of the chief.
Look, and let me tell you this. I'm going to say this. I'm confident, I can't prove this, there are good police officers in that police department. Because
absolutely.
I'm going to tell you something that happened too. After that happened, and then all of a sudden everything blew up.
Scooch that in front of you.
After that happened, everything blew up into the defund the police movement.
Mm-hmm.
Those the good police officers, there's good people. They left, and then Minneapolis had to go back out and try to find more police officers. I'm telling you what, if I'm a cop in that environment and that culture, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to come back, and I hope they do, because you know what? That city, those people need them. They need police officers. They need them.
I'd rather have less police but good police than police that are bad.
What happens, and we're going to go through the whole experience. I'll give you the whole experience of being police leadership through COVID. Nightmare. You lose everybody. What happens is the people you have left, this is, you're in 1,000-person police department, all of a sudden you're 200 down for a year or 2 years. You can ask these major urban police. Your cops are exhausted. They're burned out. Emotionally and psychologically, they are hurting, and you're going to expect them to go out there, and they're in high crime areas. How do you think they're going to perform? Those are things that when I talk about officer wellness, those are some of the things that we got to hit on. We have improved in our profession with officer wellness, but we have a long way to go too.
You were going to explain to me training again, because again, you do training. Maybe you don't even call it training. Yeah. When you say you get a new guy in and you do this, you train him on our culture, our law. Yeah. They should know. Obviously, getting back to the rarity is because the culture of that department is by way of chief or sheriff. And if you have a bad sheriff or a bad police chief, who's manipulated the councils or whatever they did, because you do know I bought a city. When I rigged that election, the next move I made is I had the mayor in there. He ended up becoming the longest serving mayor in Florida. Mm-hmm. He was actually a mayor after I got out of prison and way, way back. And I ended up then paying 2 council members $25,000 each to make the city a strong mayor city, if you know what that means.
Yeah, full-time mayor.
Yes, but what that means is he has the ultimate say. He makes the choice. Police chief, it's not a council's pick. It's the chief police. I mean, the mayor's pick. Just like in New York is a strong mayor. West Palm Beach is a strong mayor. I think Miami is a strong mayor. That means that mayor is the power for contracts. Yeah. Now, he gets advice from a council.
But
he
is
the
right person. Because if you have the wrong person as mayor and they get the wrong values, you're going to have the same thing.
100%, but that's up to the voters then. They should then do their research. Is he a businessman? Is he a man of faith? Is this who they want? They're going to pick who they want. And you have the opportunity then to get rid of him in that 4 years. Whereas you... obviously,
we're going to have some discussions
politically,
about this,
politically,
huge discussions,
chief.
Right.
Yeah. Politically, if you're a politician, you're not, and I know that. You're a real chief of police. But if you have a chief of police who's a good politician and can manipulate 3 out of the 5 council people, he can do pretty much anything.
Well, but I'm telling you, a chief of police has to keep the politics off of his people, and a chief of police, unfortunately, has to play some politics from time to time to do that.
100%. I'm not saying, but
as long as you're grounded in what your values, your ethics, and you're doing what's right. So yeah. We're going to talk about appointed versus, and I have professional sheriffs that are elected out here in the state, and they are great leaders. They're elected, right? They're different than the chiefs, and we have professional police chiefs that are appointed that are great leaders. It all comes down to what type of person that they are. An elected official is harder.
I know sheriffs that are not great people too,
and I have known leaders in law enforcement that were appointed that were not great leaders, and they're no longer there. Here's the $1 million question though. What's easier to get rid of, the appointed chief or the elected person? An elected person's hard to get rid of. Yeah. We talked about that the other day.
Yes and no.
Hold on.
Well,
depends how good politically he is. For 4 years,
right? You can get a regular appointed person,
and it could be done wrong. Listen. The United States was built as a history major. The United States was built, with the 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. And the reason it's done, and it takes time for any law to come. And that's good. Our founding fathers did that on purpose.
I agree.
It takes time, so we don't just do rash movements where a council says, damn, we got to get rid of this chief because it was wrong.
I agree.
And now that chief is gone, he's really a good guy. It wasn't his fault. And then you get another guy. And
in fact, there was a law that was put in place here in Missouri that protected that, because we did have that. We had it where we had elected officials who, hey, I just want to, I'm not bashing elected officials, but we had elected officials at times that would say, not in our city, but would say, I want to put my friend in as the police chief. You're gone. There's no reason, at will state, you're gone. So we did. We had a statute that was passed. It was a just cause statute that prevented from some of that. Because if you have that, that just means that you have somebody that's going to be able to manipulate that law enforcement entity. If that chief is scared and there's too much politics, you know what I'm saying? Then you're going to, all the problems that you're talking about, you may see that come up to where there's a manipulation of that. And you've got to keep that separate. A lot of times when I see ordinances, when a chief of police answers to like city administrators and things like that, it's administratively. It's not so it's not that they can go down and set policy. The chief needs to be setting that policy. You need to have the right person in there as the leader. That leader's a good leader. They're going to set good policy and good culture. And that's for any organization. Your elected sheriffs need to do
But you asked me what could be quicker. It's hard to, if you got a chief of police who's just good at rapping with the, listen, a good chief of police only has to, I'm not saying has to politicize 3 people. A sheriff has to politicize a county, because he gets elected by the county.
I'm not against sheriffs elected.
Neither am I.
I'm just saying either case, you got to have the right person.
No, I think that goes for saying from the hiring process, because we're going to talk about
Same
that.
with the mayor, got to have the right person.
Right.
What I
but
love
they
about,
get rid of him.
What I love about picking the right person is that you guys have picked me as the right person for your producer. And so,
because he's going to end. Let's end the first segment. I'm only in the first bullet point here.
Yeah, he's I don't like what Larry said. All of a sudden I go, I forgot that joke. Did I say that? Right. He's got AI now, so my voice is all over the place.
We'll get you to say
I'm in trouble here.
It is time to wrap our first episode.
Can I ask the chief one thing?
Yeah, fire away.
Thank you.
As long as
Mike.
it doesn't have 1,000 bullet points.
No 1,000 bullet points.
Okay.
Wow, see my mind. I just talking to him. You know how it is with us.
I know it.
Because this is we'll get to it our second show. Thank you. I agree, Chief. As a first show,
it's a great spirited debate here.
I think we're gonna get into great topics, subject matter topics that will open people's eyes.
All of you that are watching or listening, you now understand the bubbling cauldron that we're cooking here, and I'm telling you, I just cannot wait to help foster it along. It's so much fun.
Yep.
I am gonna transition and do a lot more. Again, I'm doing things I want to do, as much as have to do.
Right.
One thing I have to do is take care of my mom, and that will never change, and that is priority one, no matter what in my life.
Yep.
And my grandkids. The other was no. So what I want to do is make sure that we keep that openness, because I will say it here, no matter what I say on this show, and this is the audience, I have the utmost respect for Chief DiGiuseppi and Mike as a producer now, and no matter what I say or how I attack you or butt you, don't ever take it personal.
Larry, I'm going to attack you right back. We're all good,
and I love
that's
it.
good.
I
you
got
know
thick
what?
skin.
We're friends. That's right. But I'm like I said, I give Larry a lot of trouble. It's all in jest, but it's good to come together. And I like sitting down with opposing views to show that a lot of times you can be on opposite ends of the spectrum, but you can still come together. You can still get things done. And to me, that's what our entire nation needs to do. That's what America was built on. Why have we ever lost the ability to sit down with somebody that might be have different experiences, be different, grown up different than you, different political views, whatever? Why have we lost that experience that we can sit down talk about it, come to some conclusions. That's how we get things done here.
Well, and then learn.
Learn
Absolutely.
and give the public a way. What I've learned by having a big show myself and YouTube and a presence is I get a lot of contacts from people asking me, Larry, how can I help you change the prison system because my son is in it? Or how can I help with this topic of whatever? And I do a letter writing campaign, or I do something just to open eyes, because I don't jump at it rashly and say, let's go march on, Lake St. Louis's police department.
Yeah.
You won't see me do that. You might see me gather enough people to go to a chief and say, listen, chief, you don't want this. Meaning, I'm not threatening the chief. I want to open his eyes, because what you said earlier is one of the most important things. Perception is reality. So sometimes the police chiefs, in my opinion, don't think big enough, or like you do, hey, there's more to this whole thing, and how do I have to get ahead of it?
Yeah.
And I think that, and that has to do a lot with communications and training. And I'll
based.
talk to you about that off air.
Sure.
So people know we won't fight. If I come back with a black eye, I am the old man here. So
he's a tough guy, though. I got to say that. So anyway, thanks for being here for our first episode. We're gonna get into some more stuff. Stay tuned. Producer Mike Wilkerson, where do they go to find everything?
Sure, you're going to go to copsandrobberstalk.com for all the links, not only over to Larry's stuff, but everything that we've done now over a decade together, Chief. And then again, this is a little cherry on top of my 20 years in podcasting. Yep. 2025 is going to be a huge year for Two Guys Talking, mostly because it's 20 years. Yep. I love the tapestry that I've been able to paint with podcasting, and I cannot wait to include you guys into it.
So anyway, join us, copsandrobberstalk.com.
Every 2 weeks, we're going to have a new episode. Make sure you tune in, and you can find our links everywhere.
Absolutely. Larry and I will be doing battle from time to time. We'll see who comes out. Sometimes he may win, sometimes I may win. But hey, in the end, we're still friends.
And that's Cops and Robbers Talk.
And you can find all of our episodes on copsandrobberstalk.com.